Hello again from Calais. So this morning I went into one of the living sites where refugees are sleeping outside. I think a lot of people might picture, this kind of refugee camps you see on the news, UN or big NGO kind of big tents and a lot of structure, but it's not like that here, um, because these tents they're not, there's no space where people are allowed to be. Um, so as I walked in, um, a lot of times you come up and there's a fire where people are cooking food, and a lot of times if there's three chairs, these two people will jump up and offer you a place to sit down, and often you feel uncomfortable that I don't want to be sitting and other people are standing, but I've learned over the years that the thing to do is actually to receive hospitality, um, to not think I have to be the one to give, but to be a guest. Um, and but this time it was a bit different because there were no chairs, and there was a woman that I know there that she said, I'm sorry, it's okay for us, but the last night or yesterday the police took our chairs. So in these evictions where they destroy tents, throw them away, this time they chose to take tents or to take chairs. And she said, for me it's okay, but for you, we would like to offer, a place to sit. Um, and then, somebody found a little piece of a pallet, kind of a little square thing, and I sat down, and they offered me tea, and we shared just a nice moment together. So I'm thinking about that, and I'm thinking about in our culture, how do we welcome, how do we make space or not make space for people that are different? And I think especially of these protests that we saw even more of over the summer, where yeah, going to these hotels where people that are vulnerable and traumatized have been through awful things to make them feel unwelcome and unsafe. Um, and these marches, these voices of fear, crying out very loudly to say things that actually kind of they're not true. They're far from the reality. And it's so hard to how do we get out of this kind of dynamic? I just think in the church we know the answer. We know it's love. Perfect love drives out fear. And I think if we choose love, if we choose these small gestures of kindness, I want to ask you, to think about in your life. Is there, are there people that are from a different place, and what can you do to make them feel welcome, even in a small way? Because I think those small gestures can actually have way more power than we know, both in how people feel them, but also I think in kind of reverberating in bigger ways and going further than we imagine. Um, so I'll talk to you again next month. Thank you.